Good morning, everyone. And I'm going to talk on rescue airway devices today. I don't know if you are familiar with this term. So when do we opt for rescue airway devices? When the conventional measures to secure an airway fails, that's when we consider rescue airway device. So when do we decide that the conventional measures have failed? And what are the conventional measures that we consider? The conventional measures would be endotracheal intubation, video laryngoscopy, fiber optic laryngoscopy. But all of you are working in an ICU environment. Like what Dr. Satish has told, the difficult airway can be divided into an anticipated difficult airway and an unanticipated difficult airway. Because we are in an ICU environment, the patient can suddenly move in from a ward into the ICU. A patient who is normally breathing can suddenly deteriorate, needing an airway protection, or it could be a trauma patient coming into an ER. So most of the time, almost all the time, when we are called, we should presume that it is an unanticipated difficult airway. So we should be familiar with the rescue airway devices before we consider the conventional measures like direct laryngoscopy, video laryngoscopy, or fiber optic laryngoscopy. The situation might not be conducive for the regular conventional measures. So when do we decide that the conventional measures of securing an airway has failed? When we try to attempt intubation and maximum of 2 attempts or 2-minute period and the saturation drops below 90%, that's when we should start considering rescue airway devices. And after this, when again by 2 skilled persons, and again after that, if at all the supraglottic airway device 2 attempts and again 2 minutes and the saturation drops below 75%, we should consider alternative measures, which I'll be discussing in detail in the slides further. So rescue airway devices can be broadly classified into supraglottic airway devices and infraglottic airway devices. We'll be talking about supraglottic airway devices in detail because they are less invasive. So supraglottic airway devices basically helps you to buy time, make up a plan, and reattempt a direct laryngoscopy or prepare for a fiber optic or whatever measures appropriate. It's basically to buy time and maintain oxygenation and keep the patient stable. So it's basically a bridge between bag mask ventilation and an endotracheal intubation. So whenever 2 persons are trying to bag mask ventilate and are not able to achieve sufficient oxygenation, then you should electively go for a supraglottic airway devices. But there are disadvantages with that, which I'll be discussing. So the supraglottic airway devices, currently we are with 3rd generation. So the 1st generation device was a classic LMA, the flexible LMA, the Cobra pharyngeolaryngeal airway. The 2nd generation includes, it was an improvisation of the 1st generation, wherein the disadvantages like the gastric insufflation, not able to decompress the stomach, all those disadvantages were addressed in the 2nd generation. And 3rd generation is further better. So the advantage from the 2nd generation is the 2nd generation supraglottic airway devices can be used for positive pressure ventilation. But the disadvantage is the positive pressure ventilation should be with the physiological PEEP levels. It cannot handle higher PEEP levels. So up to a PEEP of 6, 7, it should be okay. And 3rd generation Bathka mask. I don't know how many of you have seen a Bathka mask. So the supraglottic devices can be again classified into perilaryngeal sealers. All laryngeal mask airways are considered as a perilaryngeal sealers. They seal the larynx, but they do not occlude the upper esophageal sphincter. Then the cuffed pharyngeal sealers, which is the combi tube, the king laryngeal tube, and the cobra perilaryngeal airway. Then there are these cuffless. Cuffless is nothing but it has got a preformed like an eye gel, which is not inflatable. Doesn't mean it doesn't have a cuff. It is preformed sealers. So it can be a Bathka mask or eye gel and the streamlined liner for pharyngeal airway. Okay, so these are preformed and easy to insert. So I've got few slides. This is the classic LMA. I'm sure most of you have seen it, and it is widely used in anesthesia. How many of you have used it in your ICU? Okay, so the classic LMA is a bit technically difficult because the tip is flexible. So the tip is very flexible. So what happens is it folds on itself when in contact with the epiglottis, or it presses on the epiglottis, and the epiglottis is pushed against the glottic opening. It should ideally go below the epiglottis, but it goes in the above the epiglottis, presses the epiglottis and closes the, so the positioning is a bit difficult because of the flexible tip. So I'll just briefly mention about this classic LMA. We'll talk about the other LMAs in detail. So this is the size chart. You go by the patient body weight, not by the age, and these are the volume which is mentioned in the tube. You'll get all the details about the volume of insufflation in the cuff mentioned. So this chart, you go by the patient body weight rather than the age. So the advantages of classic LMA is it's a supraglottic device. Your skill need not be, you just have to be familiar with it. You don't need a big skill set to introduce this. You don't need patient to be in deeper planes, so you don't need to give high doses of anesthetics. You don't need a relaxant. So there is improved hemodynamic stability, reduced anesthetic requirements, and patient tolerates relatively better. But there are other supraglottic devices which are much more comfortable to the patient. So it is relatively better, less coughing and sore throat once you take it off, and can be done by anybody who is familiar with the LMA. So the disadvantages is it's a low pressure seal. So the dislodgement risk is quite high, and you need to inflate it with the right pressure, or else it can get dislodged. And the positioning of the patient, like turning the patient or proning the patient, is not possible. It can get dislodged. You cannot pass in a suction catheter to deflate the stomach. You cannot suction the tracheal secretions as well. And like I said, the tip might fold against itself and not get positioned properly, or it might impinge on the epiglottis, and the epiglottis might occlude the glottic opening and interfere with your ventilation. And this, like I said, it's a first generation supraglottic airway device, so it's not conducive for a positive pressure ventilation. So the ProSeal LMA was designed to overcome the disadvantages of a classic LMA. So the disadvantages, like the flexible tip, is a bit more firmer. So the placement is relatively easy, and it has got a bevel tip, so it doesn't impinge on the epiglottis. And the most important thing is it has got a dedicated suction catheter. So this tip rests itself at the esophageal opening. So you can pass a suction catheter through this and deflate the stomach. And the other thing is it's got an bite block. The classic LMA is not very well tolerated by the patients. So when they try to, in lighter planes, when they are restless, they tend to bite, and that gets occluded. But this has got an integrated bite block, so it is relatively safer. So you cannot directly connect a suction port to this. You need to pass a suction catheter to suction out the esophageal stomach contents. So this again is by the patient's body weight rather than the age, and the inflation volumes are slightly different from a classic LMA. And the sizes, you get better sizes, and the ProSeal LMA, you can use it up to 100 kg body weight, unlike a classic LMA. So this is a pictorial representation of position of a ProSeal LMA. Like you see, this is the glottic opening through which the patient gets ventilated. The tip of the ProSeal LMA lies at the esophageal opening. So this is the suction port through which you pass a suction catheter and you can deflate while not interfering with the ventilation of the patient. And this being a second generation LMA, like I said, is You can keep a suction catheter through this, keep the stomach constantly deflated, reducing the risk of aspiration, and you can use this for a positive pressure ventilation with a normal PEEP. So the postoperative patients whom you electively ventilate, this would be an ideal option for elective postoperative ventilation instead of an invasive ventilation. So few more images of the ProSeal LMA. The advantages are it's reusable. It can be washed in a running tap water. It's silicone based, so the allergy risk is less. And it's modified, like I said, it's got a esophageal drain tube. It's a posterior inflatable cuff and reinforced air tube with a bite block, and it's got an introducer. And the leak pressure is relatively higher, so it is designed to be conducive for positive pressure ventilation. So the advantages of classic LMA versus ProSeal LMA. It's got a separate gastric tube, a bougie guided insertion. Yeah, this can be used for a assisted endotracheal intubation with a bougie guiding. The dorsal cuff provides a better seal, and thereby it facilitates positive pressure ventilation. So further modification of a ProSeal LMA is an LMA Supreme. This also comes as a second generation LMA, but a few disadvantages, like the insertion technique of LMA Supreme is relatively easier as compared to a ProSeal LMA. The cuff of ProSeal LMA is relatively flexible, so you at times need a finger assistance, finger guided placement. And when the patient is light, you have a risk of getting a bite. So this is a bit more stiffer. The tubing is a bit more stiffer, and it's got two flanks on either side, which provides stability. And it being firmer, you need not use your finger technique. And the tip is firmer, like in a ProSeal LMA. So you just hinge. It is designed. The shape is preformed. The curve is preformed to easily get placed in the larynx. So because it's got flanks, and the design is such that you just have to hinge the tip against the hard palate, keep advancing it further, and it automatically goes and rests as a laryngeal sealer. So it facilitates easy insertion, and it's got a fixation tab. This fixation tab is a big advantage of LMA Supreme, because it helps you in assessing the size, and if the size chosen by you is right as well. So the visual guide to correct size selection. After inflation of the cuff, the LMA generally tends to slide up a bit and position itself. So after inflation, the fixation tab, this tab should be 1.5 to 2 centimeter above the upper lip. If the distance is less, then you have chosen a smaller size. If the distance is more than 3 centimeter from the upper lip, then obviously you have chosen a size that is too large, and so it's not fitting. So whenever you choose a smaller size, again it's not a complete seal. You still, despite having a suction port, the seal is not complete. You have a high risk of aspiration. If the size is big, it will not fit properly. It will not position itself around the larynx. So again, you'll not be able to ventilate the patient, and obviously your risk of aspiration is also high. So you need to choose the right size. And of the 3 LMAs, I would choose, my personal choice is LMA Supreme. So the modifications of LMA Supreme. So it's unique, flattened, and firm, so easy to insert. Even when the interdental space is narrow, even if with a 2 centimeter gap, with a deflated cuff, you will be able to pass this. Whereas a classic LMA or a ProSeal LMA will be difficult to pass, because even with complete deflation, you need at least a 3 centimeter interdental distance to pass a ProSeal LMA. This being flattened with 2 centimeter or a even narrower interdental distance, you will be able to pass it. And it's elliptical, so even more easier to pass. So the firm anatomical shape, like I told you, facilitates easy insertion. So anybody, even a person who has been in ICU for a month or 2, can pass it very easily. And the fixation tab would guide you in choosing a right size. And it helps to minimize accidental rotation once in place, because there is a flank on either side, and as compared to a ProSeal and a classic LMA, which has got a tubular connection that can rotate and displace easily. This flank stabilizes it better, and the risk of kinking or accidental rotation is less. And this can even be used for prone ventilation, and you can pass it even when there is an accidental extubation in a prone ventilated patient to buy time. If at all a patient is prone ventilated and obviously patient is expected to be hypoxemic, and whenever you change the head position, you have an accidental extubation, you don't have time to, supine the patient and intubate, you can use this as a bridge. So the modification of LMA Supreme runs, I'm just going to repeat it. So this again being a second generation is conducive for a positive pressure ventilation. So it's modified and enlargeable inflatable cuff, enhances the anatomical fit into the pharynx, the glottic seal pressures between the conventional LMA and a ProSeal LMA. In ProSeal LMA, you'll have to give a higher pressures for it to achieve a better seal. In classic LMA, it doesn't provide a complete seal and it doesn't have a suction tip. So this Supreme bridges the disadvantages of both a conventional LMA and a ProSeal LMA. And the fins on either side, and the modified fins. So what they mean by fin is this part. This modified fin is not there in ProSeal LMA. This modified fin accommodates its position around the epiglottis. So this is one more advantage of LMA Supreme over ProSeal LMA. Next is a LMA Fast Track. LMA Fast Track is not the usual LMA that use it for ventilation. LMA Fast Track is basically to facilitate LMA guided endotracheal intubation. So like you see, there is a epiglottic elevating bar. So epiglottis will come in your way while intubating. So this has got an epiglottic inflating bar. So this facilitates a better vision of the glottic opening. And there is an airway tube through which you can pass the endotracheal tube. Okay, and this shaft is reinforced with a metal tube to facilitate passing of a flexometallic endotracheal tube. And this has got a 15 mm connector, and this can also be connected for bridging a gap before you pass an endotracheal tube, and there's a handle. So like I said, this LMA is basically designed to facilitate endotracheal intubation, and this cannot be used as a conventional supraglottic airway device. So it's a intubating laryngeal mask airway to facilitate tracheal intubation, can also be used as a primary airway device. Whenever it's a rescue airway device when you have a failed intubation, and you can, instead of this endotracheal tube, you can use this to pass a blind or a fiber optic guided intubation also. So even somebody who is not familiar with a fiber optic scope, with the help of this, can use a fiber optic scope, because the scope will be guided to the glottic opening naturally. So it is a modification of a conventional LMA. Like I said, it's got a rigid stainless steel tube supporting the lumen, and it's a wide bore, short shaft, and it can easily be negotiated by hinging against the hard palate, and it's got a reinforced endotracheal tube as a part of the set, and it's got a stabilizer rod. The seal pressure is 60 centimeter and 60 centimeter of water. So you basically pass this LMA, position it. So the technique of insertion, you can see YouTube videos. I would briefly explain, but it has to be demonstrated rather than told. So the handle, the handle that you see should be parallel to the sternum. So holding it this way, you hinge the tip of the LMA against the hard palate and lift the handle perpendicular to the patient. Just this movement will get the LMA placed against the glottic opening. The only criteria would be to choose the right size intubating LMA. A further advancement of a intubating LMA is a LMA C-track. It is nothing but a video guided intubating LMA, wherein you visualize, rather than doing a blind intubation, you visualize. And it is similar to a fiber optic. With this, you can take the assistance of a fiber optic scope, and it helps you pass the endotracheal tube. The disadvantage of this is excessive secretion, excessive bleeding, previous intubation trauma, or a oropharyngeal mass, or if the patient has got a full stomach and is already having secretions, this will be not of much use to you. So it's completely portable, wireless system, less weight, you can easily handle it, and easy to learn and very effective. So we need to have a difficult intubation kit, and if possible have all these as a backup. So we are done with the LMAs. We'll pass on to the King laryngeal tube. I'm sure most of you would have seen a combi tube. How many of you have seen a King laryngeal tube? So it is for, again, a relatively inexperienced ICU personnel or a difficult airway situation wherein you have tried all these measures, or there is a high risk of intubation, or a post-trauma patient who is already vomiting and aspirating and you just can't have any visualization. In those situations, passing an LMA will not be conducive. One thing is, the mouth will be full of secretions, or there could be blood, or there could be an ongoing aspiration wherein LMA will not be helpful. So in those situations, if at all you are not able to secure a conventional airway techniques, you opt for this. It's a relatively blind procedure. The King laryngeal tube has, similar to an endotracheal tube, it's got two cuffs, a proximal cuff and a distal cuff. When you pass it blindly, there are two possibilities. It can either enter into an esophagus or it can enter into trachea by luck. So depending on the position, you decide on which cuff to inflate. So it's got a pilot balloon to inflate. It's got a length marker similar to the endotracheal tubes. It's got a radio opaque line. Once you secure the tube, you need to know the position of the tube, whether you have ETCO2, but despite that, if at all you have a chest X-ray, this radio opaque line will help in guiding you whether the tube is in esophagus or into trachea. So the proximal cuff has got two functions. One is to stabilize the cuff in the larynx, and it seals the oronaesopharynx. So it helps in if the tube is into esophagus, it helps in ventilation. The next picture would help you understand better. And as you can see, there's a port here. So that's the only port in King laryngeal tube, unlike a combi tube, which we'll be seeing in the subsequent slide. And it's got ventilation holes in front of the larynx. And it's got a distal cuff. So this is the pictorial representation of a placement of a King laryngeal tube in case the tube is into esophagus. If at all when you pass it blindly, it enters the esophagus, how do you use it? You inflate the distal cuff. Okay? So thereby preventing the esophageal secretions, the stomach contents to be, it prevents the aspiration, reduces the aspiration risk. And you inflate the proximal cuff as well. So when you ventilate, the patient gets ventilated. So the advantage is, in case the tube accidentally enters the trachea, then what you do? You don't inflate the distal cuff. You just inflate the proximal cuff. So you'll be able to ventilate. But the disadvantage is you are not sealing off the esophageal opening. So still you have a risk of aspiration. So that's a disadvantage of a King laryngeal tube. So the advantages are easy insertion skill, but it's life-saving. Anybody who has not intubated can also blindly insert the tube, but you'll have to confirm the position. Confirmation, like I said, can be confirmed with a chest X-ray or a ETCO2. It can be used for positive pressure ventilation, like you can connect it to a ventilator. It will function like an endotracheal tube. and it can also be used to intubate a trachea. Next comes the combi tube. Combi tube is very similar to the king laryngeal tube. It's got a few advantages over a king laryngeal tube. Like you see, it's got two lumens and two cuffs with separate cuff inflating cuffs. So it's got a pharyngeal balloon, a distal cuff, a pharyngeal perforation, and a distal end, unlike a king laryngeal tube. So there are two possibilities. Like I said, the tube can enter either into an esophagus or into trachea. So whenever it enters, the esophageal, it's a blind insertion airway device again. You don't need a laryngoscope. Double airway device designed for emergency ventilation when visualization of the airway or endotracheal intubation is not possible. Ventilation can be achieved either with a tracheal or esophageal placement of tube. So the proximal lumen is blue colored. The distal end and the proximal lumen is blue colored and contains fenestration distal to the pharyngeal balloon. When you connect it through lumen 1, the ventilation is through the pharyngeal lumen. Okay? So when do we use this? When the intubation is esophagus or trachea? It's very similar to the king laryngeal tube, like I told you. So you use this when the placement is into esophagus. All right? And used in case of esophageal intubation, which is 90 to 95% of the time. When you pass blindly with the neck in neutral position, the possibility of the tube entering esophagus is 95%. So if it's tracheal, you need to be double sure that it's trachea. But you should always presume it's esophagus. So the distal lumen is transparent, and you use it when the placement accidentally enters the trachea. Okay? And then you inflate the distal cuff. Okay, and the ventilation is through the tip. Going back to this picture. So the disadvantage of king laryngeal tube is whenever it enters trachea, there is no sealing from esophageal secretions. Whereas in this, if it enters trachea, you can inflate this cuff, ventilate through the distal port, thereby protecting and sealing the airway and protecting from aspirations. Okay, so the advantages is it's a blind insertion without need for a light, laryngoscope, or direct visualization. Effective ventilation, it can be used for positive pressure ventilations. The proximal pharyngeal balloon provides better air seal. If at all it's a tracheal intubation, you need not inflate the pharyngeal balloon. The gastric contents, in case it's an esophageal intubation, then you can use this distal port for decompressing the stomach. You will be ventilating through the pharyngeal ports. You inflate both the cuffs, and through lumen 2 you pass the suction catheter. The suction catheter goes into the stomach, and you can use this lumen to decompress the stomach. That's the advantage of combi tube over a king laryngeal tube. Okay, so this is another pictorial representation of the king laryngeal tube placement. The placement is in esophagus. All right. So you inflate both the cuffs, so the ventilation happens through the pharyngeal lumen. So the contraindications: when patient has an intact gag reflex, they will not tolerate this tube. When the patient is less than 5 feet tall or under 16 years of age, the combi tube, we don't have size options. The history of ingestion of caustic substances, you cannot use this. Burns involving airway, you cannot use it. And when there is CA tongue or any pharyngeal laryngeal mass, this tube cannot be passed. And the proximal balloon, the pharyngeal balloon, is always made of latex. So any latex allergy, you cannot use this. Then comes the iGel, which is very commonly practiced, very readily available, and most of the ICUs and OT has iGel. Even in the smallest of ICUs and hospitals, they have iGel now. So you need to be familiar with this. The other airway devices, supraglottic airway devices may not be available, but iGel is readily available. So it comes in different sizes and very easy to insert. And patient tolerance is much better. Even an awake patient can tolerate it better. So iGel should be, you all should be familiar with iGel, if not with other supraglottic airway devices. How many of you have seen iGel? Relatively more number. So it's very similar to LMA. The tubing is more rigid. It's got flanks on either side, so it's reinforced. It's got a bite block. So patient, even when patient is awake, they can tolerate an iGel. Even if they bite, the tube is non-compressible, so you can still ventilate. And it is preformed tube. You need not inflate. You need not inflate it. And with the body temperature, the gel contours itself around the laryngeal opening, so the tolerance is much better. It's second generation, so it can be used for positive pressure ventilation, and yeah, it adapts to the patient airway better and provides a better seal without a cuff. It's a soft gel-like non-inflatable, non-allergen. The shape and softness acutely mirrors the perilaryngeal anatomy, no cuff inflation. Compression displacement trauma are much lesser as compared to other supraglottic airway devices, and it can be used in prone ventilation and for assisted intubations. Next comes the slipper. It's a streamlined liner for the pharyngeal airway, relatively difficult to insert, even more difficult. The availability is also not much, so I've not seen it anywhere in other than workshops, actually, to be honest. Plastic uncuffed disposable tube, hollow boot shaped, and you don't need much of skill to insert it. It anatomically fits larynx. It's got 3 parts. It's got a toe which seals the esophageal opening. It's got a bridge. It's got a hollow chamber for collecting the gastric secretions. It's got a stem, and it's got a ventilation port, and this is the heel. So it's relatively large. So this is the other view. So like I said, this is the lumen, and this is the toe which seals the esophageal opening. This pocket is to collect the esophageal secretions or gastric contents. It's preformed, it's much more firmer, harder to insert, technically difficult, and it is more traumatic and occupies more space, and not available in many sizes, and yeah, it's not a commonly used device. So I've just included it for completion purpose. So this is the pictorial placement. So like I said, this is the toe which seals off the esophageal opening. Whatever secretions gets collected in the pouch here. This is the bridge, and this is the ventilation port. Okay, so it's very difficult to insert, not ideal for beginners. So the third generation is Bascom mask, which is a improvisation of a slipper and the other LMAs. It's the most recent third generation, in the sense was introduced around 2007, if I'm not wrong. And it's a smaller bowl compared to other LMAs. So it doesn't include the esophageal opening. The adjustable shaft increases angulation, allows easy negotiation, and it's got a double gastric channel. One channel is for decompressing the stomach, equalizing the gastric pressure with atmospheric pressure. The other gastric channel can be used for suctioning. So you need to literally see it physically for understanding it, but I've tried my best to put the anterior and posterior images. So this is the seal around the larynx, if you can appreciate it, and this is the ventilation port. Okay, so this provides the outer seal for the larynx. So this is the cuff orifice and device cuff. So basically there are 2 cuffs, and this is the posterior surface. Okay, this is a big pouch with an opening, and the gastric opening, the esophageal opening, enters into this pouch which is on the posterior surface. If you imagine the hood of a snake, the anterior surface and the posterior surface. This is the posterior surface with a big pouch to facilitate collection of the gastric contents, which communicates with the esophageal opening. And you can see this, a small handle kind of thing, which facilitates the placement of the BASCA mask. And whenever you are finding it difficult to insert, you just have to tag this. By pulling this, the tip gets flexed and it increases your ease of insertion. So this is the major advantage of BASCA mask, the third generation mask, over all other supraglottic devices. Whenever you have difficulty in inserting, it hinges on the hard palate, it hinges on the soft palate, you have enlarged tonsils, then you can use this tag. By pulling this tag towards you with a non-dominant hand, the tip flexes. So this part can easily negotiate its way into the larynx. So the supraglottic airway guided ET. So which are these? So far we have discussed so many LMAs. All these LMAs like LMA Fast Track, LMA ProSeal, LMA Supreme, iGel and SLIPA. All these will facilitate you for a guided endotracheal intubation or a fiber optic laryngoscopy. Once you have ensured that you have achieved the oxygenation is relatively better, then you can go for a second attempt of guided ET intubation or a fiber optic laryngoscopy. In ICU, endotracheal intubation is any time better than all these. These are just to buy time and help you tide over the crisis. Coming to the next part, infraglottic airways. So we have talked about the supraglottic airways. Now infraglottic airways. There can be two ways to achieve a infraglottic airway. It can be by a supraglottic axis. That is, like what we discussed, a guided endotracheal or a fiber optic intubation with a supraglottic airway devices. It can either be through a endotracheal tube or a fiber optic devices. The infraglottic axis, cricothyroidotomy. It has already been discussed in detail. I'll just mention it briefly. I remember Dr. Niranjan talking about it in detail yesterday. And then tracheostomy. Tracheostomy can be a